Whoa, what is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. The draft is 4 days away. I'm going to be live in less than an hour on Bad Dog channel. We're going to start doing our midday streams. We'll be live on his channel today at 4:30. We'll be back live on my channel tomorrow at 4:30, then back on his channel on 4:30. And then I think we're going to be live on 4:30 on my channel on Thursday before we go live on his channel for the draft. And then we're going to go back and forth. So we're going to have a week's worth of coverage about the draft. Can't wait to talk about it with all you maniacs, all you lunatics, all you diehard Giants fans out there as we finally get to see how the New York Giants fill out the rest of their roster with the 10 picks that they currently have in this year's draft. But some pretty big news just went down for the New York Giants. And, of course, there was a rumor about this a month ago. License plate guy came on my channel, if you didn't watch it on a live stream, and talked about the fact that he heard that A'Shawn Robinson was going to be signing with the Giants. We then later heard that he visited the Giants, did not leave with a contract. Well, today it came out from Ian Rappaport that, in fact, indeed, A'Shawn Robinson will be suiting up for the New York Giants. And I'll talk about how much I love this move for this football team. Okay, I did a video on it, when we initially heard about the rumors. What was the biggest weakness of this team last year? Simple, right? All you got to do is look at the numbers. You don't got to be a mathematician to look at it. One, we didn't create turnovers. I'm talking about defensively. We didn't create turnovers. We were 31st in the league in interceptions. We did create a lot of fumble recoveries. We were second in the league in that category, but we only had 6 interceptions all year. Well, a major reason for that is because teams were able to run all over us. So guys, quarterbacks weren't put in a situation to have to throw the ball in obvious passing down situations. You look at our run defense last year, we gave up 5.2 yards a tote. That was 31st in the league, second to last in the National Football League. And you look at it and you say to yourself, well, how's that possible with how good of a year Dexter Lawrence had? We all know that Leonard Williams is a pretty good player. Well, it's simple. We had no linebacker help, right? Obviously, the addition of Bobby Okereke is going to help tremendously. And we had no interior line depth. Well, now we have it in abundance. You go back, you look at the playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles or the games against the Cowboys. That's the one thing that really stood out to me as a Giants fan, specifically in that playoff game. The 4, 5, 6-man rotations that the Philadelphia Eagles had on that football team. Well, now the Giants suddenly may have just turned their biggest weakness defensively into their biggest strength. And you think about how much better this run defense could be. You bring back, obviously, we're going to extend Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, I should say. You have Leo back at least for another year. You bring in Nacho, and now you bring in one of the better run stuffers in the National Football League in A'Shawn Robinson on a 1-year deal. Now, listen, he's had injury problems in the past. It's a 1-year deal. We're going to get into the specifics in a second. He may not play a full 17 games, but he's certainly going to provide some much-needed depth for this team, and he's certainly going to help in obvious running down situations. Not to mention the obvious addition of Bobby Okereke. Suddenly, this run defense, which was literally the second worst in football in terms of a yards per carry against, may become a plus for this team with all the additions that they've made. So Joe Schoen has done a tremendous job improving some of the obvious weaknesses of this team. You think about the biggest weaknesses of this team going into the offseason, that's what you want him to start to address in free agency without really damaging the future cap space of this team, because you could get out of the Waller contract really after 2 years after the money that they push back. The 1-year deal for Paris Campbell, this is a 1-year deal. The Nacho deal is a 1-year deal. The Bobby Okereke, it's a fair price. It's about the same per year average as Blake Martinez was a couple of years ago, and you could get out of that at 2 or 3 years in if you were to get hurt. So without really further damaging the future cap space of this football team, the Giants were able to significantly improve their weaponry, because you have to include Darren Waller in that along with Paris Campbell, and they were able to bring back Darius Slayton and significantly improve their run defense, which was by far the biggest weakness last year for this football team on the defensive side of the football. And they did it without damaging really any future cap space. Joe Schoen has done a tremendous job, and he's still got 10 draft picks to go. Now, what does this mean for the draft before we talk a little bit about Robinson? Well, I wouldn't say it assures. I did say that initially on my tweet. I don't know if it's a slam dunk that we won't go interior defensive line at this point at 25, but I think it at least slightly lowers that as a probability. The fact that the New York Giants felt like they needed to go out there and spend this kind of money on this player. Now, it is only a 1-year contract, so you could certainly argue if a guy like a Kalijah Kancey was a guy that they were enamored with and they thought he was by far the best player on the board, they could still certainly take him. But I think it lessens the probability. Yes, I still think they're going to go BPA, but I think this is Joe Schoen telling you that he's projecting that interior defensive line more than likely won't be the BPA on their board. So I was starting to open up to the fact that that was at least a growing possibility. That has now gone down on my list in terms of at least projecting what I think the Giants will do in the first round. I think at this point, it's probably either a corner or wide receiver, as I've said all along, with maybe a slight chance at the safety if Branch were to fall, or potentially the interior offensive line with the center with a guy like John Michael Schmitz. I think that's what you're looking at, but I think I'm strongly leading cornerback or possibly wide receiver. Maybe an edge if a really high-end edge prospect were to fall to us. So there's still a lot of options that the New York Giants have, but I think this at least slightly lessens the possibility that we'll be going interior defensive line. But I'm excited. You think about what the Giants have to do. You're going up against arguably the best running attack in football twice a year against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we all know that the Dallas Cowboys behind that strong offensive line could pound the rock as well. Well, now the Giants will be much better equipped to be able to deal with those running attacks. And by doing so, I think it's going to create more interception opportunities because now you're going to be in more passing down situations, and Wink will be able to dial up the blitz with a lot more confidence. You could see Kayvon Thibodeaux really thrive. You think about how good Dexter Lawrence looked last year. Well, now he's going to be more fresh to close out games, and he's going to have guys that you have to worry about outside of himself and Leo on that defensive line. That should only help everybody around him. This front seven for the New York Giants has gotten dramatically better with the additions of Okereke, with the additions of Nacho, and now with the addition of A'Shawn Robinson. And all you got to do is go back and look at the Super Bowl a couple years ago where the Rams played the Bengals. In my opinion, I remember watching that game and saying to myself, he stood out more than anybody else. Obviously, Kupp had the big plays down the stretch, and I think he won the Super Bowl MVP. But A'Shawn Robinson in that game was a beast. He ate. The only problem with him is he's had injury troubles, but it's why it's a one-year commitment. In terms of the deal, this is coming out from Art Stapleton. I'm told the Giants deal for A'Shawn Robinson will come in around $4 million for 1 year with a maximum value of incentives reaching $8 million per source. Is excellent value for a player of Robinson's caliber, and it really is. When you really think about the interior defensive line market, let's put this into context. And I'm not downplaying Dalvin Tomlinson. As a matter of fact, in my free agency preview, I talked about him as a potential target for the Giants because I thought his market would be in around that $8 to $9 million range. He got $15 million per year, and not just him, we saw how the interior defensive line market exploded, but he's more of like a, traditional run stuffer as opposed to a multifaceted interior defensive lineman of the likes of a Quinnen Williams or a Dexter Lawrence. He's a guy that's in there just to strictly, stuff the run. Dalvin Tomlinson got $15 million a year, and I'm not saying he's equal to him, but he's pretty damn good. And if he could stay on the field, he's going to be a huge improvement for this team for a very, very cost-effective price. And once again, only a one-year commitment. It's a stopgap as you continue to build up the rest of your roster, but this should significantly improve this defensive front for the New York Giants. I'm not saying this is our most impactful move, but it might be the move I'm most excited about, outside of probably Darren Waller, because to me, this kind of just puts the bow on it. It kind of just ties everything up on that defense, specifically on the front seven. Like now we have the necessary depth to really compete week in and week out in terms of, being able to stuff the run. And I think this could make a huge impact for this team for the 2023 season. I absolutely love it. And if the Giants are able to land a high-end cornerback in this year's draft, suddenly Wink is going to be able to do whatever he wants on that defense, right? Let's just say we get a guy like Deonte Banks who maybe is, makes an immediate impact in his rookie year opposite of Dory Jackson. You got McKinney back, right? He was banged up last year throughout the year. You think about the pressure that they could generate with Wink's defense now with the strong front seven that they possess. So absolutely love this move. I think it gives a lot more freedom for the Giants. Let's talk a little bit more about Robinson. A couple of articles I was able to pull up. In 2022, the Rams had the third highest run-stop win percentage in the NFL, according to ESPN Analytics. Just like in 2021, a big reason for that was the play of defensive tackle A'Shawn Robinson. Prior to sustaining a season-ending torn meniscus against the Saints in Week 11, Robinson's 20 tackles for loss, and I talked about this in the other video because I remember that stat, helped Los Angeles hold 7 of its 10 opponents to under 100 rushing yards. Now, Robinson is scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent when the new league year begins on March 15th. 20 tackles for loss in 11 games. That's insane. That's 2 tackles a game for a loss. So he had a tremendous year last year in terms of how he graded out. Robinson has only suited up for a full season's worth of games once since 2017, which explains why he would only get a 1-year contract. However, when the Alabama product does play, he's proven to be an effective run stopper. Just this past season, he produced a respectable run-stop win rate of 39.5% and a Pro Football Focus run defense grade of 68.7. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would imagine those would be dramatic improvements as to the guys that, he's replacing from this defense last year. Not to mention we got DJ Davidson coming back as well. So the Giants' defensive line now you got 6 pieces that you can kind of rotate And I think it's going to better allow Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams to help close out games in the fourth quarter. They won't be as tired. Maybe their snap count will be reduced by 5-6 snaps a game because of the improved depth that you have on this team. And that should help benefit them come crunch time when you really need this defense to close out games. So I love the move. I think it's a great move. And suddenly, I don't think it's so far-fetched to think that this New York Giants team could be a real threat from within the NFC East division. I'm not saying we're catching the Eagles in 1 year, but would I be shocked if we catch the Cowboys? I wouldn't. I think Daniel Jones is going to take a big step up next year, and I think our defense is dramatically improved. I cannot wait for the draft. Can't wait to talk about it with you guys at 4:30. I'm going to be on Bad Dogs. Get over there. This video is probably coming out at 4, so by the time you finish watching this video, I'm going to be live with Bad Dogs. So get over there. I'll see you guys over there. But I'm excited. I'm pumped up. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.